After doing multiple repositioning cruises, including most recently an 18-night Silvernova Alaska to Japan one, I feel driven to challenge many widely believed things that encourage so many cruisers to book them. These create expectations that are simply misguided, leading to disappointment. Unfortunately, something that I've seen on each one that I have been on. Welcome aboard. I'm Gary Bembridge, and by the end of this, you'll know exactly which of the most common repositioning cruise beliefs are flat out wrong and why. Starting with probably the biggest myth of all, that they're just like regular cruises, only cheaper. While repositioning cruises are incredibly good value, often up to half the price of a regular cruise in the same cabin, like the Silvernova one I did recently, they are not simply the same experience at a lower price. Repositioning cruises are fundamentally a different style of cruise. For a start, they're extremely sea day heavy. It's not unusual for half the trip to be sea days. For example, a transatlantic repositioning between Florida and Europe I've booked on Crystal next year lasts 14 days, but half of that are sea days. And they often come in long consecutive stretches. On that trip, it's 4 in a row. But on that Silvernova repositioning I mentioned at the start between Alaska and Japan, we had 6 sea days in a row. So you must really enjoy sea days. And for many people, not having experienced that before, they feel a little bit trapped and they're desperate to get to a port. I've seen this on every repositioning cruise that I have done. Another key difference to regular cruises is that cruise lines often use repositioning cruises to do maintenance, install and test new systems, try out new production shows, and so on. They often even update or refit venues, meaning that areas of the ship can be closed with contractors working on board. That, of course, doesn't happen on regular itineraries. I've experienced all of these on my various repositioning cruises at one time or another. For example, on an MSC Divina repositioning from Europe to the Caribbean, there were construction teams on board refitting and changing some of the dining spaces to better meet USA passengers' needs ahead of the Miami season. Now, on that Silvernova one I mentioned, they were testing a new excursion audio system and they were rehearsing 2 new theatre shows which weren't fully polished and working that well yet. So repositioning cruises can sometimes feel kind of part cruise, part soft refit and try out period. Also, repositioning cruises, unlike most regular cruises, are one-way itineraries, which means one-way flights. On regular cruises, you usually only need to travel to one port to join and leave the cruise. But on repositionings, the starting point and ending point are dramatically different, meaning booking at least one international flight. Now, one-way long-haul flights can be surprisingly expensive, and that can add cost and complexity that many first-timers don't always properly factor in. So no, repositioning cruises are not just cheaper versions of regular cruises, they are different. Now, there is another big misunderstanding, and that is there is one type of repositioning cruise. When most think of repositioning cruises, they think they are transatlantic crossings between North America and Europe. Now, these are the most common, but they're not the only repositioning cruises. In terms of the numbers, the vast majority are cruise lines repositioning their ships across the Atlantic, from the Caribbean to Europe in spring, and then from Europe back to the Caribbean in autumn. But repositioning cruises come in many other forms too. For example, trans-Pacific repositionings between Alaska and Japan, like that Silvernova one I mentioned, they happen at the start and the end of the Alaska season. Also, some ships even reposition all the way from Australia at the end of their cruising season via Tahiti and Hawaii before arriving in Vancouver for the Alaska season. I, for example, have booked the Tahiti to Vancouver repositioning on Silver Whisper for 2027, and that will last 29 days. So no, repositionings are not alike and not just transatlantic. While in terms of numbers of ships, they are mostly transatlantic crossings, they do include more complex, exotic ocean journeys, and the places visited as part of them can vary dramatically. Another widespread misconception is about the weather. I've seen people getting this wrong time and time again by thinking they will have great weather, days to relax in the sunshine and warmth with endless days of calm seas too. Unlike regular cruises that operate in regions during their peak, their best seasonal weather, repositionings happen at the beginning and the end of cruise seasons. This is times when the weather is changing seasons and it can be very unpredictable. On all I've been on, I've experienced cold and windy days, often with decks being closed or not nice enough to be out on, and with rough seas of varying degrees when sailing across those wide open Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. Let me give you a couple of examples. On that recent Silvernova Trans-Pacific, the outside decks were shut for several days in a row because of heavy wind and bumpy seas. Those seas that some cruisers found tested their sea legs and had them reaching for seasick remedies. On all transatlantic repositionings, I've had days needing winter clothes and coats, but then also shorts and swimming trunks as it moves between those regions and those seasons, and always days of choppy seas too. So many cruisers I meet on them tell me they had expected to be lying out on the deck in the sun for most of the trip, but that is often not the case. This expectation is why so many fall for another myth, and this is when it comes to cabin choice. A myth I frequently hear is that inside cabins are perfectly fine on repositionings because you're only sleeping and changing in there. Now, on a typical port-intensive regular cruise, that's possibly true for many people, but with repositionings being longer, having back-to-back sea days, less outdoor deck time due to the weather, and basically more downtime overall than regular cruises, this is way less applicable. I find speaking to people on repositionings that they are spending more time in their cabins than they had expected. So budget-friendly inside cabins can start to feel a little bit claustrophobic when on long stretches with multiple sea days and not great weather outside to sit or relax. I've met so many cruisers who regretted not spending that bit extra to get an ocean view or balcony cabin, to make time in the cabin that bit more welcoming, spacious and brighter. But importantly, with rougher seas, for some of the trip, where your cabin is located on repositionings matters more than on regular cruises too. Booking a cabin midship and on lower decks can make a huge difference in reducing movement on those extended days when seas may be rougher. So booking a specific cabin fare where you get to choose a midship and lower deck cabin is better on repositionings than just booking a guaranteed fare to get a grade when you're going on these trips. It also means you can choose one away from noisy venues and ensure you get one without an interconnecting door to the next cabin, because your neighbors are also likely to be spending more time in their cabin too. I always meet people on repositioning cruises who didn't avoid those two issues and found it frankly draining and rather annoying. Another myth I hear is that there's not enough to do on board during repositioning cruises. I do meet many that are worried there will not be a lot to do on board a repositioning cruise. And there is some reason to be concerned, but not for the reason that most expect. Cruise lines do and will ramp up their daily program activities on repositionings to cater for all that time on board and at sea. Many of them will bring on enrichment speakers, run bridge and craft sessions, put on more trivia, bingo, quizzes. They'll add dance classes, culinary demos, perhaps mobile phone and digital workshops, deck games, and so much more. However, while there could be a lot happening, it can become rather repetitive. For example, on that recent crossing, the schedule was basically the same every single day, the same activities at the same time every single day. And because the cruise entertainment program in the theatre is largely built around 7-night itineraries, there usually aren't enough different production shows to cover a 2-week or longer repositioning. So what lines do is they fill in with guest entertainers, doing multiple slots, and on several I've been on, they actually get the production show singers to put on their own personal cabaret-style performances to try and fill up the program. So there's entertainment, just not what many people are used to. Another myth is repositioning cruises are ideal for trying new cruise lines because the fares are lower than trying them on a regular cruise. I've seen using repositionings as a way to try a new cruise line backfire pretty often. Because there's such great value, I've seen many tips suggesting, why don't you upgrade to a line you've never sailed on before and perhaps couldn't usually afford? But remember, you're committing to 2 weeks or more on a new to you line. If that line's passenger mix, its offering and program doesn't suit you, it will feel like a very long 2 weeks indeed. I've met, for example, night owl party loving types who tried Viking for repositioning and found themselves bored by the more enrichment led and early night program. I've met people on Cunard who didn't actually enjoy the more formal dress code and the more formal traditional program. On my recent repositioning on the small ship Silver Nova, I met so many people who usually cruise on bigger ships and lines like Celebrity. They were desperately missing the big shows, the large bustling casino, the range of lounges, bars, and restaurants. Personally, I think repositionings are much better suited to upgrading the cabin category on a line you already know and like, because the lower fares will mean that you can go on a higher grade than your budget usually allows. There is also a myth about when to book a repositioning cruise you need to know about. Many people suggest booking repositioning cruises late because prices drop. Now, these days, sometimes they do, because not all repositionings sell out due to the port light itinerary and the times of year that they take place, limiting who they appeal to. But late booking comes with, I think, two big risks. The first is cabin availability. You may get stuck with a cabin in a location that's less than ideal, as I discussed earlier. The second is that flights get way more expensive the later you book. So any savings on the cruise fare can easily be wiped out by last-minute, long-haul airfares. So waiting is a big gamble. And finally, perhaps the most important myth is about who repositioning cruises are for. Many tips I read say that repositioning cruises are for everyone. I think they absolutely are not. The people who love repositionings tend to be people who enjoy sea days. They enjoy slowing down. They're very sociable because they are very sociable cruisers. They're flexible, and of course they're budget savvy. They're also good for solo travelers because they will appreciate the fares and the community feel that develops because people are on board so long. They're also great for people who enjoy learning, enrichment, and they're just slower paced cruise without ports. Repositioning cruises are not ideal for first-time cruisers. It's too much of a risk, families with young children, or people who cruise primarily, of course, to sea ports. But if you are interested in repositioning cruises, join me over in this video where I share the best way to find and choose the right one for you and how to get the best possible experience. See you over there.